Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on modernizing your applications for the cloud with Redapt. Redapt is a technology solutions provider focused on helping our customers navigate the ever-changing and complex landscape of enterprise technology. At Redapt, we believe that highly successful organizations are those who adopt highly successful technologies. Today, we have an exciting webinar about modernizing your applications for the cloud with our AppMod expert and practice area director, Rakesh Anantharaman. As you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll address those at the end of the webinar. Go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm guessing you guys can hear me okay. So thank you for being here. And as Sarah was just mentioning, this is going to be modernizing your applications for the cloud. So just a little bit of background before we get started. So I've been with Redapt for close to 10 years now. As Sarah just mentioned, I'm the practice director for the application modernization practice, or AppMod for short. I've been doing this for a while now, close to 14, 15 years experience, worked all over the East Coast, and been with Redapt, as I said, for close to 10 years. We have a strong set of enterprise architects as well as cloud engineers working on my team, and we work together to solve interesting problems that customers have, mostly focusing on agility and cost savings for the customers. There are multiple other KPIs that we also have, but these are the things that the core things that we focus on. And we also focus on end-to-end solutions across, irrespective of what platform it is, right? Web, mobile, desktop platforms, Microsoft Stack, Mean Stack. So any kind of custom development work comes over to our practice, and we are pretty good at that. Moving away from my picture. So these are the 4 different things that we'll be covering today. First one that we'll be focusing on is current enterprise challenges. What are the different challenges that are facing companies, both enterprise, small and medium level, as well as other type of challenges that they're facing. Second would be around what makes applications modern, right? We talk about modernizing, but what it actually means. Does it mean a new UI skin that we put on? Does it mean containerization? Does it mean, other kinds of stuff that can happen? What does that actually mean? Because every company today, they have 3 or 4 different types of applications, right? They have their own customer-facing applications, they have internal applications, as well as some of B2B applications that are out there in the cloud. And of course, there is data that goes along with it, right? So every user interaction with any kind of application, right, works with data, consumes and generates a ton of data. So how does modernization fit in? Is it on the website or is it on the data side? Because every business collects tremendous amount of information. And our main challenge is to how to turn this data into actionable insights and intelligence, so we can provide, say you guys and we can provide that superior customer experience when somebody comes to our website or downloads a mobile app. The third one that we'll be going over is the roadmap to modernize application. Every application is unique in its own spectrum. So how can we kind of approach it and put a roadmap together so we can modernize the applications that we have. And the fourth one, the good thing that I want to talk to you today about with you is a case study for a company that we help move to the cloud, and actually kind of helping them with other features that on an ongoing basis that are building, and we'll be covering that in the case study today. All right, so moving on to the first topic that we wanted to talk about, current enterprise challenges. So the 2 major challenges that we hear every day when we talk to customers, when we, enterprise levels, SMB, any kind of customers that we talk to, are speed and agility, right? Number one, as it says here, how do you bring products to markets faster than your competitors? Because it's an ever-changing market. And the second is finding efficiencies in workflows, reduce cost. As as I was talking about it initially, the core, the 2 pillars of practice usually is, speed, agility, speed, agility. How do we reduce the cost? How do we make sure that our customers can get their products out to market faster than what others can provide, as well as, constantly update the products, listening to the customers, absolutely, and constantly updating the products on whatever, using their best practices that are there. The third thing under speed is, working faster to free up more time for innovation. So that kind of is very, goes into agility on speed, however you want to classify that. Because we are no longer, I think people agree, we don't use waterfall methodology anymore, right? It's always going to be how agile you are, what kind of different agile methodologies do you use, how do we kind of speed it up? Again, it all depends on, how do we get to the market as soon as possible. Just along with these two, there are a few other things that I would also like to mention. Customers, end customers, even though no matter how modern your application is and how modern they look, three things that they care about is, speed. Number one is speed, as it mentions here. And when I say speed, not just delivering things to the marketplace pretty quickly, but how fast is your application, right? Nobody's going to return to a slow website or a slow mobile app. I think the second one along those lines is personalization. And we focus that a lot on the app mod side as well, because customers care a lot about personalized experiences that, they log into a mobile app and they expect the mobile app or your web app to remember who they are. And it should be able to learn from them over time and deliver a personalized experience as well, right? So that's important. That's also something that we're hearing from enterprise customers, and that's that would very well translate easily to speed and agility as well. And it has to be the customer experience. It has to be the same across whichever device that they use. It could be a mobile phone, a tablet, the form factor. It should be fitted, and they should not see any differences, wherever they move. An inconsistent experience across platforms will drive the customers away. And how do we kind of ensure agility? How do we follow the best practices, being agile, to get that product out the door? Is something that we hear as a challenge every day. This is just a quick data point that I wanted to throw in there about more and more enterprises understand the key right now to achieving the speed and agility is through modern app modernization. And we'll cover what app modernization is in the next few slides. And a couple of tidbits here. In a global application, app mod services is expected to hit close to 11 billion by the end of 2020, and it's expected to shoot up to 25 billion over the course of next 5 years. So are these enterprises, are they ready for it? Are they ready to make the transition so as to satisfy the customer needs? Is something that we are, it's something that they are introspecting, say, hey, are we ready? And that's where modernizing the cloud actually helps, making the application more cloud native, so to say. And as you guys can see, right, I mean, any kind of website that you talk about has evolved over the last several years. It used to be more like a static content before. A few websites are still static content, but right now it's more, just going back to the agility and the speed concept that we were talking about. The development of these web applications, these mobile apps, they have to be way more agile, not just in terms of quick updates, but also being able to provide that consistent experience across different platforms. So that's something that I'll be kind of saying over and over again, talking about it during the course of this webinar. And this is not news. If you're not under a rock, if you've not been living under a rock in 2020, the pandemic has kind of accelerated the need for enterprises to modernize the application. That's what at least we are seeing on the Redapt side, where more and more customers are interested. They are motivated to go, hey, let's modernize, and not just putting a new UI layer on top of it, but what are some of the best practices that we should do to ensure that even if something like this were to happen, how can people work remotely? How can we support them remotely? And so you can have the business continuity no matter where you are, right? I mean, you could be thousands of miles away. Do we have the business continuity? Do we have the right disaster recovery in place? Do we have the right high availability setup in place? So those are the things that has fast tracked app modernization that at least we have seen in the past few months whenever after the whole pandemic happened, the whole COVID-19 thing started happening. So this is again, I mean, this is important for us to look into, and we'll cover that in the next few slides. All right. The other thing that we have also seen during this phase is the companies that have invested time and resources into modernizing applications already. They were doing it before. They've been able to provide greater flexibility to teams, no matter where they work. Wherever they work, they have that flexibility because the applications are hosted on a cloud platform, and they can go and manage it pretty easily, right? So how do you reduce? And they've also been able to reduce costs by scaling in the cloud. As you know, cloud, infinite scale. So you can scale your applications, you can host your applications on any data center that you want. And how do you actually reduce cost? Is by not having a machine running below your desk in your office, right? It's all in the cloud, easily manageable, easily updatable, easily controllable. And how did they achieve this is something that's it's interesting, because we are seeing a pattern emerge among these enterprises that have already embraced this, which is they are familiar with DevOps practices. They are very familiar with the modernization concept. So they have used the best practices that have been laid out there to get modernized, to take that step into cloud and make it more cloud native. And they've been very successful from whatever they've been doing the last few months that we have seen. So that covers the first portion that we talked about. We'll move into the second one. Actually, okay, we've talked a lot about modern applications. What does modernization actually mean? So it can be, according to us, it can be classified into 4 different pillars. Elasticity, resiliency, scalability, and efficiency. Right. So what does elasticity mean? So your application should be able to run on any device, on any platform, or rather, your architecture, the application that you design should be platform and device agnostic, right? And this is where we've seen, containerization helps. That's a very long word for me to say. So containerization helps a lot. And we have also seen that people who have embraced this technology, they are more elastic. They can scale easily. And once you're elastic, the next 3 things come pretty easily. Resiliency, scale up. The applications are scalable, and your efficiency increases as well. So elasticity is the main pillar behind it. Second one, of course, resiliency, right? If one part of your application goes down, it should not take the rest with it, right? So if a small portion of your application is unable to, nobody's able to interact with it, doesn't mean your report center should fix it, right? If you're unable to manage your inventory, you should still be able to run your reports to get some kind of account profitability report, some kind of cash flow, wherever your vertical is. So that is another key concept of modernizing applications. Third one that people always ask, hey, how scalable is my application? Can you scale infinitely? Because I have customer demands. On Christmas Day, I would probably need 15 different virtual machines that are running, but after Christmas, I would want it to get it down all the way to 2 virtual machines because I don't see that much traffic. So how does that help? Cloud helps you do it, as well as the other thing that's also kind of becoming predominant is segments of the application. How do I scale only a portion of the application so that I don't have to pay for scaling the entire application? It's going to be a matter of cost savings there. So when you think about modernizing applications, that's what you have to think about. How do I keep it separate enough? How do I decouple this application so I can individually scale these bits and pieces, these segments, as we would like to call it, and without having to scale the entire app, get some cost savings there, and also deliver to the customers. The fourth one, efficiency, right? Every single application. This kind of goes back to the agility conversation that we were having before. applications should be written in such a way that it needs to be updated routinely, because it has to be more agile. We have to keep updating it, especially compared to the traditional waterfall labs, right? Traditionally we used to, hey, these are the requirements, let's go do it, deploy it, and come back later and fix it, right? So that's not how it works right now. You have these agile methodologies where you release to your production environment every few weeks. So customers are happy with what they're seeing. They're seeing progress, not necessarily one huge chunk that is deployed end of the year. A year you're working on something, end of the year deploy, rather than they are seeing, rather than seeing small portion and small improvements, small features here and there that you add using the agile methodology. So just to sum it up, 4 main things that you would probably need to be focusing on: elasticity, resiliency, scalability, and efficiency. And that kind of makes any application, right, web, mobile app, however you think about it, makes the application modern. So now we talked about a little bit of what makes applications modern. What does it allow? Does it solve a problem that we were talking about before, right? Modernized applications allows enterprises to use the native cloud tools that are available rather than building from scratch. There is always the build versus buy conversation that happens. But by using the cloud native tools that are already out there, by focusing on what we just covered, resiliency and efficiency, we are using what's already there in the cloud to go and use it, rather than building your own platform, building your own data center to go into it. So that is one thing that's provided by by going the cloud way. Second thing would be scaling the components of software independently for greater elasticity, because we talked about elasticity. You don't have to scale your entire application. How have you segmented the applications into smaller pieces, so you only have to scale that small piece and not the entire application? Third, which kind of focuses on costs again, and scaling as well. So the workloads that are going to be used heaviest, you would have to scale depending on the traffic that are coming in. So enterprises will be able to do that doing that, and just back down once the demand diminishes. The same example that I was talking before, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, I want to scale up the ordering platform, right? The ordering segment inside the application, because I see many customers coming in during these days to place orders. But once that's done, I can take it down a notch or a couple of notches, because I'm not going to see the same number of requests and the same number of customers on the portal. So these are a few things that we consider modernizing applications, the 4 main pillars that we talked about, and what it allows the enterprise customers to do. The third one that we are going to cover today is a roadmap to modernized application, right? It's when I was talking about it initially, I said every application is different. It's going to be difficult to it's going to put a generic application roadmap together, but we can focus on 3 or 4 different things that every application should be focusing on to start modernizing. So just going into this a little bit more in detail, we have customers who are interested in simple lift and shift, right? But what we are seeing more and more every day, what app mod or app modernization should be focusing on, is not just simple lift and shifts into the cloud, right? Hey, can I just do it lift from my on-premise virtual machine and run it on an Azure virtual machine, on wherever the virtual machine is going to be running on the cloud, right? It does get you a little bit of cost savings, but does it actually mean that you have modernized your applications? Probably not, because it does not deliver the full benefits of modern platforms. It solves a few things, but I don't consider that as modernizing your application. Second thing is, not every application in enterprise portfolio is suitable for the cloud, right? So we have to analyze every application that's in your suite of applications and kind of determine what makes sense to move into the cloud, right? In a few cases, you may say, this is, I don't see a lot of traffic in here. It does not have to scale a lot. It's only going to be internal application. I'm just going to keep it inside. Fine. We're not going to come in and suggest, hey, this is something that needs to be moved into the cloud. But there can be a few other updates that can be done to the application. So, for us to maintain it easily for us to kind of do updates to it easily in the future. So not every application in an enterprise's portfolio is suitable for the cloud. The third thing that we have to be focusing on when we do the modernization is, once we identify which application needs to be cloud, architected to become more cloud native, and what we have seen is, we call them legacy applications because they're running on a virtual machine on somebody's desktop or somebody's computer, right? So what we have seen is those need to be pulled apart, and re-architected in such a way that it actually fits well when we move to cloud native. And that's something that we are recommending that, that the focus should be when we think about app modernization. And the fourth, this is just summing it up. Application modernization usually means modernizing how an enterprise works. So it does not actually mean, just an application, yes, make sure this application is up and running, make sure it's in the cloud. Sure, but what are the things that we are achieving? Are we putting together the best practices for the customer? So any kind of future work, they can take the right steps to think about it right when they move to the cloud and when they modernize it. So this is a generic list that we can think about, irrespective of which application we choose. And once we choose a specific application to be modernized, then it would change based on the application, because the architecture is going to be different. How we deliver that to the customer is going to be different. 5 different steps that we are suggesting any kind of app modernization to go through. Number 1 is catalog all your existing applications in your portfolio. This would come under more like an application rationalization kind of a framework, because we want everybody to catalog existing ones. You would have no idea how many customers we have dealt where they may have an application that's running somewhere that nobody has used over the last couple of years, but it's still there, accruing cost, and it's not useful for anybody. So take a step back, catalog all your existing applications within, in your suite, and make sure you capture the relevant points. Once you have captured that, understand the use cases for your existing applications, right? Which is again rationalization. Think about why would you need this application? Do you actually need it? Look at the customers. Look at how many times has this application been used. Talk to folks who have used this application and kind of understand what it actually means. Why do they use it? Would they be okay if this application goes away in a broader sense? Or if that's the case, can we combine the small feature that they're using into another application, so they are happy and they don't have it's not taking up space, so to say, right? Third one, once you do that, identify the applications that are suitable for migration to the cloud. And that's once you do 1 and 2. Third would become a little bit easier for you, because now these are the different applications. You have identified your applications. Yes, these ones are important. These ones need to be scaled. These ones need to be re-architected if needed for the cloud environments, the cloud that you're going to be focusing on. And how would you re-architect them to make sure to make it cloud native, focusing on the 4 points that we talked about initially. 5th one is, okay, once you have identified the applications, once you have put together the architecture, let's create a proof of concept for the application, right? Let's not jump in. Let's do a crawl, walk, run approach, like people like to call it, because once you have architected the solution, check it out, create a proof of concept, and once it looks good to you, okay, now we have a path, now we have a roadmap to actually start implementing on the architecture that you put together, so you can get the run portion pretty quickly. You have crawled so far with the proof of concept, you're walking, and when you actually go implement, you're actually running with the application. So 5 main steps there for you to focus on when we talk about app modernization, what it actually means, and how you can approach app modernization. Okay, so the 4th one that we wanted to cover today was a case study, and today we'll be happy to talk about this case study because this one is close to my heart. We've been working with Tandem Diabetes. We've been partners for the last 3.5 years, And we've seen the company grow a lot during these 3 years, and we've partnered with them, helped them grow, and we've grown along with them, which is fantastic. So Tandem Diabetes, they are a medical devices manufacturing company based in Southern California. And what they do is they manufacture insulin pumps. They call them smart insulin pumps. And these pumps are attached to your body, so you don't have to kind of whenever you have to kind of get your blood sugar level tested, and test is automatically for you. It is continuous glucose monitoring, so you don't have to kind of do it every day or every week. It monitors your blood glucose level continuously, and if it feels that it's kind of going down, or it gives you an insulin shot right away. It's not going to wait for you to take it. So the continuous glucose monitoring and insulin pumps was a pretty good idea when that was launched, and we helped them launch it out of the gate by engaging with them. So their main problem was, as I said, they manufacture insulin pumps, and the company needed a better way to engage with its customers because it's a smart device. They have to sit with the customer to explain what it does and how it is, and all the different features that go along with it. And that was costing Tandem Diabetes a lot of, it was costing them money, as well as they could have used that to do other work, build other features. So we helped them build a cool customer portal to better meet the needs of the customers, where a customer can log into this portal and look at their blood glucose level, almost, it's updated every minute or updated every hour, if I remember right. And which means the customer no longer has to call Tandem's customer support saying, hey, what is my blood glucose level? What's my blood glucose level? Rather, here it is. This is how it is. And if your, if your blood glucose level, if you see anything off with it, these are the things that you have to do. This is the number that you have to call. But here is the data. Here is the raw data for you. And when we designed this using Azure, and we developed a virtual training module as well that educated both the customers and met the FDA requirements. And as you can imagine, this insulin pump generates a lot of data because it's continuously monitoring their blood sugar level. So it generates a lot of data and keeps pumping it in. The first thing that we had to solve for them was what data makes sense and what data does not, right? Putting on the end customer's head. So we used Azure's IoT edge device infrastructure here, where we are getting a lot of data pumped in from the insulin pump. We used Azure Function to get the data, parse the data, massage the data, and land it into a SQL database that the customer portal can pull and get data out of from. And this one helped because we didn't, and we used Azure Platform as a Service. We used app services, we used containers, so we can get the resiliency, we can get the agility, and we can get the scalability that's needed, because this is a solution that will scale pretty quickly with the number of people who are diabetic and who need insulin pumps in the US. It's increasing. So this one is they help those people achieve continuous glucose monitoring, which could be life-threatening in a few cases, right? So it was a very good project for us to be involved. And the outcome of that was they've been able to completely modernize their customer relationship, which increased their Tandem's relationship with the customers as well, because that gave them a good platform for them to go run reports based on raw data. They also provide virtual training powered by Azure. We created some training videos there, as well as help them get achieve what was possible. So just wanted to kind of talk about the case study that we did with them. So to sum everything up, going through the previous 16 slides, app modernization is the key to achieving speed and agility, the two main pillars that we focused on before. And how do we do it? And leveraging platforms like Azure allows enterprises to scale applications, reduce the workload costs, goes back to resiliency again, create resilient applications, cut down on the costs, deploy new products to the customers faster, which is the key thing here, right? How how agile you are you listening to the customers, making the changes, deploying it to the end customers as fast as possible, and and also reduce costs, and create that resilient and scalable applications for you. Last project, last slide here is how does Redapt help you? Because Redapt has extensive experience with app modernization on all cloud platforms. And we are able to assist in every single aspect of whatever we talked about, right? We do app rationalization, we do app modernization, and we do proof of concept helps, we do chatbots, we do a bunch of other things and my practice that deals with. And we do full assistant day two operations, so to say, right? Assistant during migration as well as day two operations, other practices. We also have other practices that help with day two operations and migrations as well. Just to sum it up over there, and we are ready to get started. And the link is there. Please hit us up. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh. We have a few questions here for you in the Q&A. First question, will all of our existing services be available on the cloud when you migrate, I suppose?
So it kind of depends on the services itself over here, because again, we'll go through the app rationalization and the app requirements first. We have to analyze what the services are. It depends on a cloud by cloud basis, but what at least we have seen on the app mod side is we can definitely get as much closer as possible to the services that are available on the cloud.
Great. Second question, how do you weigh the remodel versus rebuild question?
We weigh the remodel versus rebuild. Yeah, so it's a good question. As far as remodeling your existing application, it again depends on the application, because once we go through the architecture and kind of determine this is what is needed for it to make it work, we would probably take a different approach. And the proof of concept helps here, because we've seen applications that there is no way for us to be able to move into the cloud, right? If you have like a Windows application that's running on a Citrix server somewhere, just an example, right? For us to be able to move that into cloud is going to be a little bit difficult, and just as a lift and shift, because that when you're doing the lift and shift, it makes sense for you to write that or change the Windows application into more of a web app, which is easier for you to manage and deploy, and then move it over to cloud, right? So in that case, it's not necessarily a remodeling. You're actually rebuilding your application using the same business logic and business features that are out there, but rebuilding it so it's not a Windows, it's more like a web application that's there for you to move. It kind of depends on an application by application, but once we do the analysis, once we talk to the different stakeholders involved, we will be able to make the determination on if it's a rebuild versus just remodeling just to make it work.
Got it. And last question, is it best to migrate all at once or in phases?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what makes sense is just do it in phases, because I was talking about the crawl, walk, run approach. It's much better to do it in phases, because create a proof of concept first, make sure that works. And again, every application's need is a little bit different, but it's always better to do it in phases, so you know what portion works and what does not. In a few cases, it makes sense to keep them where it is, and it's always better to do it rather than take one big, take a big chunk. Yeah.
And do you find that is more cost effective to do things that way, or is it more cost effective to migrate all at once?
It is cost effective. I mean, on the cost effectiveness side, it is definitely better to do it in small phases, so you understand how much cost savings that has happened, as well as just to see how much scalability do you actually need. So it's definitely cost effective. It's much more scalable if you do it that way, and we can showcase the resiliency of the application.
Awesome. Right. All right. Well, that wraps up Modernizing Your Applications for the Cloud with Rakesh. And if you want to engage with Redapt, our contact information is down here at the bottom. And, thanks for joining us today for the webinar. Thank you, Rakesh.
Thanks, guys. Take care.